So, Games Workshop just released images of these new orc boys that had been leaked, and I figured I might talk about it because I've seen a lot of different opinions online. The main things, let's call them complaints, that I've seen are that the boys or orcs in general look like they're monopose now, that their heads aren't as easily swappable, their noses look stupid, and they no longer have dump truck asses. Now, I think I disagree with most of those criticisms. Now, don't get me wrong, these look like they probably are pretty monopose models, but I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as the Primera stuff. Um, First of all, these are orcs. They are very animalistic and barbaric and don't really worry about clean or symmetrical armor. Now, if you're trying to convert Primera Space Marines, you have to kind of put in a lot of effort to make sure that the armor panels and plating makes sense and isn't just like cut up or messed up at weird angles and everything has to be perfectly smooth. With an Orc Boy, none of that matters. So, saying that, I think the only issue with swapping out weapons and heads and stuff like that will be that it'll be a lot harder to change whether an orc is left or right-handed. But I think you're going to get enough variation that it won't really matter. And once again, they're orcs, they're very easy to convert. Even if you add like milliput or green stuff, like rags or something, they'll still fit pretty well because they're beaten up. They're not supposed to look perfect. I don't remember what my next criticism that I mentioned was, but let's talk about the heads being less swappable if they're monopose. I personally don't think this is that big of an issue because the orcs were in somewhat of a sorry state before. If we look at these knobs, not this one, we'll look at this one. The heads just break your immersion. They look like G.I. Joes with like posable action figure heads, I guess. And that really breaks the immersion for me personally. Even if you did gap filling on this, it would still look like it's been like awkwardly extruded and doesn't quite fit the forms of the neck. Meanwhile, in this orc, you can kind of see a lot more sculptural detail on the forms of the neck, which kind of, you know, makes it seem a bit more biological or alive, which I personally really like. And don't get me wrong, being able to customize boys and knobs and whatever else in an orc army with different heads is really important. But at the same time, I think they can do a little bit more to fix them and it won't be that big of a hassle. And once again, they're orcs. It really won't be that hard to, snip off heads and clean up some of the muscle detail. Like, they're not symmetrical like a space marine, so once again, it's going to be a lot easier. The next thing I heard people complain about was the noses, where I guess from what I gathered, the complaint is that the middle part of their nose sticks out too much. But I don't know if we've seen too many examples of that. There's been like four close-up images of orcs shown, and then the rest are a bit further back. But I actually don't mind it. I think this is an intentional design choice. Because it just lets you do a lot more with the nose. So if we compare this guy with a nose ring to one of these knobs in the other tab that also have a nose ring, what we find is that... Is it this guy? Yeah. What we find is that the nose ring isn't really flat. It's slightly bent. And I think that's because there's not much for it to actually, like, you know, grab onto in this model. So it actually doesn't bother me from a modeling and immersion standpoint that they have a little nub. Because, yeah, this guy's absolutely no nub, and then the ring is a little flat as a result. But if we look at this orc, I guess this one does also have the little nub, but that's not a big deal. You can honestly just very easily trim that off if you wanted to. Yeah. Like, it's not a difficult conversion to make if you really wanted. The last thing about these new orcs is that they look like they've trimmed down their butt a little bit and removed their scoliosis, which is something I love. That's one of the reasons I could never get into orcs. Like, they just look kind of stupid. I know that's my own somewhat negative opinion, but it just doesn't represent the army properly, I don't think. Like, they don't look scary, they don't look menacing, they don't look like, animalistic brutes who will rip you limb from limb for fun. But this guy actually looks tough and kind of scary. Like, it looks like it will eat you and give no second thought to it. Meanwhile, these guys, they look like they're in pain. They don't have these angry grimaces because they're scary. They have it because they're in dire need of being treated for scoliosis. Like, let's be honest. Also, I just realized there's literally nothing holding this pole on. That's annoying. But yeah, it's just so hard to take them seriously. Especially because it kind of makes their legs splayed out more. Like, they'd look really stupid if they had the twerking butt and then straight legs. But unfortunately, what that makes it look like is that they're kind of like squat walking, like they're trying to find a bathroom. Like, the mechanics of this orc running just don't work for me. Let's look at a different one. Yeah, because their legs are like slightly angled, so if you imagine this guy running, he'd kind of be like undulating back and forth. Like an Ewok or something, which is just hard to take serious. Now, it looks like this one might have a little bit of a twerking butt happening. But this guy looks a bit better. I know it's very hard to tell, but it looks a little bit better. And I think that's basically all that I have to say. Yeah. Overall, I like the direction they're going in. The orcs actually look scary now. They look like they're going to eat you. They have actual facial expressions now instead of just grimacing like they have to, go wipe their butt or something. So, overall, pretty good. I give them a 9 out of 10. There's not much I don't like, so that's always a plus in my book. That said, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.